With all the news about the State of the Union and the economy, Trump's successes, I was wondering, if the media and Democratic establishment didn't have Trump derangement syndrome, would Trump actually be one of the most popular presidents in U.S. history? We have this poll, the Washington Examiner is highlighting this, I believe it's from Gallup, that says record economic optimism under Trump, better than Reagan, Clinton, and Obama. So why is it that with this roaring economy, this tremendous success, with the new trade deal, with this economic optimism, Trump's approval rating isn't higher? Now, admittedly, Trump's approval rating based on Gallup's data is actually higher than Obama's for the same time period. So, that says something. But I do think while Trump is absolutely worthy of criticism, and you don't have to agree with his policy plans, I think he's absolutely held down by a lying press. And I'm not playing a game where I think all of the press is always lying. I'm saying there are people in media who lie and they play the game for the Trump bump. But I want to show you something. Right here, we can see that, as I mentioned, Reagan, Clinton, Obama, Trump is doing better. But take a look at this story. Impeachment gets 77 times more TV time than Trump's economic successes. Could that be why Trump's approval rating has been as low as it is? Even though it is right now relative to Obama, a bit higher. Perhaps it's because, as most of us know, the media is lying about it, or they're not talking about it, or it's a lie by omission, or their bias is in what they're talking about. All they do is talk about impeachment, which he's going to get acquitted. It's complete nonsense. But what matters to the American people isn't being talked about. Let's take a look at this story. They say economic optimism has reached a 44-year high and economic gloom a record low under President Trump in the latest survey that shows people are cheering their best personal economy in decades. For the first time in its history, the Gallup Mood of the Nation Economic Survey found that 59% of people believe that they are better off, a trend that has soared under Trump. I have to admit, I certainly am. The guys that are helping me put together, they laid concrete. I posted that. Go to my Instagram. It's at Instagram/Timcast. You'll see they're pouring concrete. I was talking to some of these guys and they were saying business is great. I went to the furniture store to buy this table. They said it was the best year of their lives. And I agree. The economy, as far as I know, and most people I'm talking to, everyone's in a really good mood. Seems like Trump pulled something off, huh? They say it is higher than when President Ronald Reagan made his economy a campaign rallying cry, and better than the so-called dot-com bubble under President Bill Clinton. And Gallup found that those who feel that they are worse off are down to 20%, the lowest ever. Ever. You know what that means? We can talk about the economy being great, and a lot of people certainly think they're better off. But what's important is that those who are not doing so well still don't think they're that bad relative to other eras. Isn't that insane? Someone might be like, the economy's not doing well for me, but I'm not doing that bad. So when all the Democrats come out and say, but the economy isn't working for everyone, most of these people are saying, yeah, but, I'm still doing better than, I'm still doing okay. It's not as bad as it used to be, or the gloom is just the lowest it's ever been. That's amazing. And this is the positive survey comes a day after Gallup reported that Trump had reached his highest job approval as president. I got to stop right here and say something. Someone once asked me, why is it that you don't like Trump, but often make all of these videos defending Trump? And that to me was an interesting comment because it sounded just like the same framing that the left says. Tim claims to not like Trump, but then makes the videos defending him. This is data. As I always say, you don't have to like him to recognize things are working. And we can argue about foreign policy, and that's my biggest criticism. And I can talk about general Republican policy, which I'm a fairly moderate individual, but like the easiest way to describe it without going through a big list of all these policy ideas is, pro-choice and stuff like that. Like the old school Democrat Republican arguments that we used to have, we don't have anymore. So here's what ends up happening. I say, I'd like a moderate Democrat who wants reasonable limits on, like pregnancy termination type issues. That's a big one. It's the easiest go-to for me, right? Because it's a classic issue that creates a stark divide between what used to be the left and the right. But right now, when I talk to conservatives, they're actually like, yeah, third trimester, that kind of stuff. So there's a big agreement now, and I think I know why. Admittedly, with what happened the other day, with Nancy Pelosi, and I've talked about it a million times now, and Donald Trump's State of the Union, I think we've already started seeing, as I covered in my main channel, Democrats quitting the party. They don't want to vote Democrat ever again. I certainly agree. I mean, for me, it's more so the cheating, right? The cheating with Bloomberg and whatever's going on with Buttigieg. I'll cover that in the next segment. But yeah, Trump is doing better and better. The country is doing better and better. And there really is a certain point where just because Trump is an awful character who does really bad things, you can't deny it. Because what's the alternative? And so I will say this. Typically my approval rating of the president really has tracked very closely to the Real Clear Politics average. I would say, over the past several days, like the past, several weeks or months, it's typically around like a 43 to 44, right? It's at a point where I'm like, I don't want to vote for them. I'd rather vote for somebody else. And I don't vote based on, thinking someone else is worse or better. I vote if I think I want to endorse this. So right now it's at 49 in Gallup. And Real Clear Politics has him just shy of 45%. And that's kind of where I am. Like 45% of what Trump does, I'm pretty much in agreement with. Actually, not take that back. I think a lot of what he does, I'm in agreement with. But I do think the Office of the Presidency is a bit more specific in its requirements other than just being able to do the job. It really is a nuanced, problem. And I also think it comes down to, I'm kind of trying to hold out that there's some kind of hope for what the Democrats can offer in the end. But what really worries me is that where I am politically, recognizing the economic boom, the successes of Trump, how people are feeling better, even Democrats are feeling more optimistic than ever. Even though I can recognize all that, there is a concern I have that if all of the people in a similar political space to me, which is just slightly center left, concede and say we have to vote for this, it's all we have, then we really do lose a very important piece of what makes this country great. Because the saying goes, you need two strong wings to fly. If the left wing is being damaged and torn apart, there need to be some people who are willing to stand up and say, and remain steadfast. And whether it's the ashes crumbling of the Democratic Party and then something new emerging, I don't think it's safe to just walk away because then the eagle falls. So I know a lot of people are willing to concede on political points they don't necessarily agree with, because Trump really is the better option at this point, considering what's going on with the Democratic Party and the caucus, whatever that nonsense is. I have a concern that if too many moderate individuals just concede, then you have a dramatic imbalance in the force, to say it lightly. If there isn't a decent balance and some real pushback, because we're not getting it from Democrats, like it may be too late already, then we're going to see the rise of this fringe deranged left running around doing crazy things. And that's going to be really scary and dangerous. But let's move on. The point I'm trying to make is, let me just put it simply. It is becoming harder and harder every day to argue against voting for the president for one simple reason. While Trump touts his victories, and we see it in the polls, and we see it in our pocketbooks, at a certain point, the Democrats have stopped arguing. And so while I can certainly say Trump's got a bad character, and I think that's very important for the presidency, Trump's foreign policy is starting to clear up relative to where Obama was. Now, Trump's not a saint. He's done commando raids in Yemen. These are the things I'm very, very concerned about. And it's typically why I don't vote. But if the Democrats can't mount a real reason, what ends up happening is people watch the State of the Union. They hear all of these sweet nothings from Donald Trump, and they say, I'd like to hear an argument against this. It's gone. There's none. Impeachment, no evidence. He's a bigot. I'm sorry. He's got rising support from the black community. I just don't see it. You've lost the argument. The only real thing is Trump's kind of a gross character. But I think it's fair to point out how the media is smearing him. And I kind of feel like this next term for Trump, assuming he wins, and I think we are assuming he wins, his popularity is going to spike dramatically. I mean, you've got a lot of people starting to recognize just how good things really are. And no matter what his character is, I mean, look, get a lot of people vote for that anyway. So I think it's fair to point out, for me at least, my approval rating typically floats around, where the RCP average is. But I tell you, I took a serious hit to the gut the other day with Nancy Pelosi, with the State of the Union, with impeachment. I tell you this, man, I'm hearing people say they want to vote for Trump simply because of how insane the Democrats have been in treating him. And I'm like, for me, that's not good enough. Trump would really have to be a person that I wanted to stand behind. And unfortunately, he's not. But I do think it's fair to say at this point, you cannot deny he has done a tremendous job and succeeded where he said he needed to succeed. Now, here's the problem. I think I kind of hit the nail on the head already. I'm not going to read too much because I do try to keep these short. But if the media only ever talks about impeachment, it's probably the main reason why people have negative opinions of him to such an extreme degree. Like, for the most part, I'm ambivalent. I think Trump's funny. I really do. He's a funny guy. He's self-deprecating often. And I think because you don't hear about what he's doing for this country, the assumption is he's just playing golf and he hates everybody and he's stealing money. But when you actually pay attention, you're like, yeah, he's not doing a bad job. He's just not my choice. And that's the big difference. But I think for people like me and my friends, man, you know, I'll tell you this. I really do think some of my friends are going to vote for Trump. I really, really do. And I'll tell you why it's a big deal, because a lot of people are going to say, oh, so what, Tim? No. Listen, man. Okay, I grew up with skateboarding lefties, you know, anarcho type people. And now they're saying, but all the stuff Trump just told us at the State of the Union was awesome. Like, that sounds really great. And the Democrats never came back with a rebuttal. They just ripped the speech up and walked away. And so it's kind of like, did you just concede? Is that what that was? Did you just drop your gloves and walk out of the ring? It is. And now my friends are kind of like, I don't know. I don't see what the problem is. There you go. Trump's going to win. The media narrative is kind of crumbling because the Democrats haven't mounted a legitimate criticism of the president. And as I mentioned in my main channel earlier, with the economy doing really, really well and all this shenanigans, the Democrats have given Trump his best week ever. But we'll see what happens come the election time. I'll tell you this, as I said last time too. I'm not voting in the primaries. I'm not voting for the Democrats. It doesn't mean I'm voting for any Republicans, but I'll tell you that's where I'm at. I got a couple more segments coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.